it's Harley, and today I'm going to be doing a video all about care tips for peace lily houseplants. These are considered easy to care for houseplants, but there are a few little finicky things about this little beauty. I mean, one of them you can see here, it droops a lot, and that worries a lot of people. I've had this one for over a year now, and then my little variegated one for probably like 6 months now. I think I got it last May, and they've both been doing really well. They've been growing quite a bit. So please let me know in the comment section if you found this video helpful. If there's a specific plant you'd like a care video done on, let me know down there and I will do it. So let's just get into it. First, let's just say the peace lily is an incredible plant. NASA is wrong with me. Whew. NASA actually listed it in the top 10 air purifying plants. These little babies are known to neutralize formaldehyde and carbon monoxide, both of which are very toxic. Thank you, little baby, for keeping me safe. I really appreciate it. You're so nice, you good little plant. They do recommend that you have like 6 to 8 plants per room, but obviously some is better than none. And 6 to 8 per room is kind of a lot, but that's okay. We'll get into that. We'll get into propagating and all that a little bit later. This plant does prefer a north or east window, and even at that, they say to not keep it too close to the glass because it can burn your plant. I personally have mine in a south window, but my little variegated guy is pulled about 10 feet back from the window. That is a key point. I feel like a lot of people sit them on their windowsills and they get burned and it can cause a whole bunch of problems. They do actually do pretty well in lower light situations, the green variety like this, but if you have a variegated variety, in order for it to keep its variegation, you're going to want to give it a little bit more light. If your leaves are turning yellow, it could be a sign of too much light. Or on the flip side, if they're turning brown and kind of crispy, like this leaf is here, that could mean that it's getting too direct light and the sun rays have burned it. So if you just start noticing brown bits like that, then go ahead and move your plant farther back from the window. So this is an older leaf and all of the new growth looks healthy and fine. So yeah, it just took moving it back from the window and it bounced right back. Kind of along those same lines, these plants do prefer temperatures that we humans prefer, so like 65 to 80 degrees, and they don't like drafts. Keep it away from like air vents and doors and windows that get opened and closed throughout the day. As far as watering goes, I feel like this is where a lot of people go wrong. So when I first got a peace lily, I thought that they like to stay moist. So I was over watering it and it just was not happy. But they actually like their soil to dry out a little bit in between waterings. And the really cool thing about this plant is when it's thirsty, it droops down like this. So they do bounce back really quickly, and when I water mine, I just water it all the way through, making sure that there's enough water that it drains out the bottom of the pot. You don't want to use a water that's too hot or too cold. Peace lilies are very sensitive to chemicals, so if you're using regular tap water, you're going to want to fill up your watering container with it the night before you plan to water and let any of the chlorine or other weird chemicals that they put into our tap water percolate out. And then something else I really like to do is kind of toss up the soil a little bit to aerate it. Better safe than sorry. Wait until you start noticing the leaves drooping, flopping all over the place like this before you give it some water. For me, I've been feeding my peace lilies a general purpose fertilizer. It's actually an Espoma one, and these guys are very, very sensitive to chemicals, so try to find an organic, natural fertilizer. Like I said, I really like Espoma for that reason. And then when I do feed it, I dilute it by half of what the bottle says, and I feed it about monthly. You know how when you buy a peace lily, it has those really cool white flowers? We're just gonna call them flowers. I know they're not called flowers. Once those die off, it is extremely difficult for the general public to get those flowers back because there is a certain hormone that nurseries and garden centers use to get them to flower, and they're not available to the general public. So unfortunately, I think it's like M30 or something like that, some letters and numbers. But unless you get a hold of that, it's going to be really hard for your plant to flower. But if you do get it to flower, the flowers typically last like 2 months. So really, really cool. But I still do think the foliage is just incredibly beautiful. I love how it's like all bendy and twisty and wrinkly. I don't know. I love it. Love it so much. Something else you may notice about your plant is if you're finding that you're watering your plant and maybe like twice a week and it keeps flopping over like this, that may mean that it's root bound and it needs to be repotted. You just kind of need to get to know your plant and its watering needs, and if you start noticing that it's flopping down like this more frequently than before, then that's a sign it needs to be repotted. Science. If you do end up having to repot this plant, give it some airy, well-draining soil. I recommend adding like some bark pieces, pumice, or perlite, or a combination of the three to your soil and mixing it all together really well, just so that it can be really airy. So, as we said before, NASA recommends having 6 to 10 plants per room. That could get very pricey. So instead, you can propagate your plant. What you're going to do is when you're repotting, you can find a crown. So kind of what a crown is a set of 2 or more leaves conjoined together into the soil. So like normally they'll have one main stem and then a few leaves coming off of that, but it is separate from like the main plant. You can really carefully separate those. You will get some root breakage because these do have some extremely delicate root systems. They should be able to bounce back from it, but just do the best you can to not tear apart all of the roots. Then you're just going to repot the new piece into the same soil mixture. Make sure it's the same, or you could send the very small young plant into shock, and it's not good for their fragile root systems, especially when they've just gone through that trauma of being separated from their mother. I think that that's all that there is. If you have any other peace lily facts or information, please leave them in the comments section down below. I'm sure I forgot something because I always do, and it always drives me crazy looking back on the video and thinking, I wish I had just included that information. But like I said, leave any information I left out in the comments section and any tips or tricks for peace lily plants. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!